If you've been playing around with React for a while and use the hooks, you know that there's something that you can call the infinite hell. And that's because the hooks will, sometimes make an infinite loop. And it can be quite annoying, to be honest. And if you don't know how to track it and why it causes infinite loops, it can be quite tricky. So in this video, I'm going to show you just the basics of why the infinite loop exists. And of course, there's a lot more to it, because if you have a very big, large application, there can be many different ways that could cause your application to create infinite loops. And what I've done here, I just spun up a regular Create React app application, and I cleaned out a little bit here. So I just have the index and the app file, and I'm going to create everything in this file here. And I'm going to use useEffect, useState, and usecallback. And it's warning me here now because I set up the linting rules and also the rules for React hooks. So that's why, so no worries. And for now, I just have the text app here, and I'm going to change that now. I'm going to show you a few examples here. And we're going to do that by using bananas and monkeys in this one. So first I create a new state with bananas and set bananas. Yeah, something like that. Use state. And I'm going to set it to 0 to start with. And we're going to have another state. So I can just copy this one actually. We're going to have 3 states. So we're going to have monkeys. Set monkeys. And this one I'm going to start at 1. And I'm going to show that in a second. And we're also going to have some coconuts. And set coconuts. It's a real monkey party here. All right, so that's our states. Yeah, and I can create the JSX for the return statement here also. So I change this one for monkeys. And I can create a nice little monkey here also. I copy this one. We're going to have 3 of them here also. So we're going to have bananas. And of course, a nice little banana emoji. And the coconuts. Coconuts. Like that. And then I'm also going to create a button here. Button with an on-click handler. I create an inline function because I'm sending along some parameters to the set monkeys. So I have the prev state and prev +1. So what this will do is it will just add 1 to the monkeys when we click this button. So we can have the text add monkey. All right, some auto formatting, and I think we should be good. So I save it. And as you can see here, we have 1 little monkey, we have 0 bananas and 0 coconuts. And we can add monkeys here, and that's great. I'm also going to open up the console. Yeah, and there's some minor warnings here. There's nothing to care about. Yeah, emojis should be wrapped in span. Yeah, I don't care about that in this video, so we have to live with that. And also we're going to use these ones in a second here, so we'll be fine with those also. Okay. First, I want to show you just a regular useEffect. We have the inline arrow function. And for this one, I'm just console log. I will run on every render. So this is a regular useEffect, and this one will run on every render in this function because we haven't specified any dependency array, and that makes it run on every render. So as you can see here, it says I will run on every render. I add a monkey, and it will just run on each render. So that's great. Or not so great if you don't want that. Okay, so let's say we don't want this useEffect to run on every render. So I copy this one. We can create another useEffect, and that's great with useEffects. You can have as many of them as you want. I will only run once. To make this one to just run once, we specify a dependency array, an empty dependency array. So we save it, try this out again. it has run on mount. That's great. And as you can see, it will not run now. It's only the one that says I will run on every render that also runs on every render. Okay, so that's basic stuff with useEffect. But let's create an infinity loop here. So I can just copy this one again. useEffect and console log. Whoa. I will create an infinity loop. Like that. This will not create an infinity loop now, so I have to do some stuff here. And the basic with infinity loops is that as soon as you do some state update inside of a useEffect, you need to have extra care and make sure that you specify the correct dependencies. Otherwise, it will probably go into an infinite loop. And that's because when we update the state here, we're going to update the bananas. All right, so we have the prev state again and prev +1. When we update the state from the useEffect, it will trigger a re-render. And if we haven't specified something here, for example, we remove this one, it will create an infinity loop because set bananas trigger a re-render, and this one will also run on each render. And then we set a new state, and that will create a new render, and so on for infinity. And as you can see, I've installed the rules of hook here, so it will tell me the hook useEffect contains the call to set bananas without a list of dependencies. This can lead to an infinite chain of updates. To fix this, pass an array as a second argument to the useEffect hook. But I'm going to save this one now, and we can see, yeah, it triggers in infinity here. So I'm just going to pause this one actually, because this is no good. It just keeps going and going and going, and that's because we haven't specified a dependency array on when we want this useEffect to run. And in this case, we want to add a banana as soon as we add a monkey. We also want to get that monkey a banana. So monkeys inside our dependency array will fix this. So I save it. Reload this one. As you can see now, if I add a monkey, we also add a banana. So that's great. We have successfully stopped the infinity loop and make our application work as it should. And this is also, as I showed you in the beginning here, I set this one to 1 with the monkeys and the bananas to 0. And that's because this one will run once on mount, so it will add 1 to the bananas when it mount. If I set the bananas to 1 up here also, I can actually show you that one and save it. It will be 2 bananas to start with, and that's not good. So I set it back to 0. And this is how you do it in a very basic level. You can probably understand that if you have a really large application with 50,000 rows of code or something, that there could be a lot of different things that could actually trigger the useEffect to create an infinity loop. But the infinity loop is created at the very base when the component re-renders, and we haven't specified the dependencies correctly in our useEffect. So that's why it will trigger over and over again in an infinity loop. All right. So that's how we solve this one. We specify the monkeys in our dependency array, and this one will just run when the monkeys update. And the monkeys will only update when we click the button in this application and add 1 monkey. Okay, I hope that made sense. I'm going to show you one more example, and that's how there can be an infinity loop when we calling functions. So yet again, I'm going to copy this useEffect, paste it in here. And for this one, I'm also going to create a function up here. So I create an arrow function, random coconuts. And I can return, I make an explicit return here. Yeah, all right. Math.floor, math.random times 10 times monkeys. And this will create a random amount of coconuts, because each time a new monkey arrives at the party, it will make some coconuts fall to the ground, and we don't know exactly how many, because that's random depending on how many monkeys there are. So that's the logic in this one, okay. So that's our function. And down below here in our useEffect, I'm going to set the coconuts and call the function random coconuts. Because when I have a monkey, I will set it with a random coconuts value. I'll remove this one also for now. Do some auto formatting and save it. As you can see, it will not trigger an infinite loop like the one before, but if I add a monkey here, you will see that it will behave very strangely here. You can see how many times it re-renders here. So this is not the behavior we want for this one. And we have some tools to use for this. And for example, we have the use callbacks. You could also move this one. If I just cut this out and paste it inside of here, that will work. Because then we have specified it inside of the use effect. And that's great. But this will not work if we don't specify the monkeys, because the monkeys variable is still from the outside of this use effect. So I have to specify it in the dependency array. So I do that and save it. And as you can see, it now behaves as we want it to do. So every time there's some dependency outside of the use effect itself, you have to specify it inside the dependency array. So this is one way you can do it, move the function inside of the use effect. And that's a great way of doing it, actually. But we have one other option that we can use instead. We have our random coconuts here, and we have the hook that's called use callback. So we can actually wrap this one in the use callback. So we wrap it in use callback. Like this. We also have to specify a dependency array for the callback itself. And it's going to be the monkeys here. And this means that this function will only change when the monkeys change. Because otherwise, as we had before, this function will be created on each render. It will be a new function on each render. And that's why it triggered that strange behavior here. And down below here, we have to specify in the dependency array the random coconuts, because now it's outside of the use effect. That's why we have to specify it in the dependency array. So I do that and save it. As you can see, it's behaving just as we want it to do. And that's why also it's so important to always specify your dependencies. You should always have your dependency array when using hooks in React. All right, I hope you learned something from this video. It's a very basic introduction to infinity loops and how you can use the dependency array with React hooks and the use effect. So, see you in another one.